Good evening and welcome to the Top 25 Rundown, presented by the Sportscast. Today is December 27, 2023. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all your channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.tv, and Apple Podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and review to help us out tremendously. We are also on DAB Digital Radio. You can listen to us on your smart speaker, play Sportscast. Visit us on the sportscast.net. Also follow us on Twitter, the Sportscast1, and check out our app, the Sportscast, the iOS App Store. Hello, my name is Alan West. Welcome to the Top 25 Rundown. Hopefully everyone had a good Christmas and or one of the other holidays, whether it be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or one of the other ones. And hopefully you've enjoyed it and we're getting ready for the new year to start. Now, I don't know if you've been watching the bowl games, but I've read some pretty good ones this year. Some have been close, while others, frankly, there have been some beatdowns. So, I mean, since we talked last, we've had the Roof Claim Boca Raton Bowl where South Carolina shut out South Florida, sorry, shut out Syracuse 45 to nothing. We had the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl where Georgia Tech beat UCF, Georgia Tech 30 to 17. All right. We had the Birmingham Bowl where Duke beat Troy 17 to 10. Then we had the Camellia Bowl where Northern Illinois beat Arkansas State 21 to 19. That game they were going for two, and Arkansas State, once they went for it, they tried for the onside kick. That did not work because there was a flag, and then Northern Illinois was able to recover the second onside kick, and that was the end of the game. It's joined. We have Chris Carlo. How are we doing
What's up,
tonight,
guys?
sir?
Doing
Hmm,
good. How are you?
doing good. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to have a few others on. They kind of bailed on me. I'm hoping Bob will join a little bit later, but, well, I appreciate that you were able to make it on. And your prediction so far, I'm still rolling with you because, I mean, I'm hoping those Huskies going to take it. All right. I'm seriously, that's what I'm hoping. I'm making that pick on the Bowl Mania that I had sent you before. So I'm figure that for this week, I'm going to make the predictions for the week games that are coming up for this week. And then have you noticed anything since last week? Not only just I know we had signing day come in, but I know you know what, we got one more person about to join us too. But have you had any big notice so far for different situations, like for different players? I know for Florida State, you just had Keon Coleman go into the draft. Had 20 players so far that have either entered the portal or gone to the draft before their game against Georgia. So, I mean, I'm curious to see what happens in regards to that. And also, we have Tyler Turner joining us as well. So, the Pac-12 conversation I wanted last time, Chris, when you were on, I may get to have that talk this time.
It's fitting as we wind down this bowl season. These are the last Pac-12 games in conference history.
Mhm. I mean, I don't know if you're watching the bowl game that's happening right now between USC and Louisville.
I am. It's you got to tip your cap to Lincoln Riley. He had this kid ready to play. Obviously, he already broke the Holiday Bowl record for yards and touchdown passes. So that's pretty phenomenal, right? No one knew who this guy was until tonight. At least I didn't.
Exactly. No, I agree about that. Well, you know what? So, Tyler, I'll get you on in for a minute. But just for how, 'cause because I was thinking the exact same thing because we even heard about this guy and all of a sudden 5 touchdowns already. I mean, I know that the commentators just a few minutes ago were joking about um the Heisman winner who, but still it's incredible because it means it for the future unless he goes in the transfer portal. They could definitely be on the right track for next year, which they could definitely use it.
Yeah, and a lot of people speculated they'd be bringing in a transfer QB. They haven't yet. I think a few have taken visits. The K State quarterback among them, but I get it. It's bowl games are not real life unless you're in the football playoff. This is just not reality for a lot of these teams. You're missing so much personnel, but 5 touchdowns is 5 touchdowns.
Yes,
That
sir.
doesn't happen by accident. And I think USC is just an easy target. Um, they fell flat on their face this year. Did not come close to their expectations. Really, they didn't last year either. With Caleb winning the Heisman. Um,
Yep.
but let's not forget that this coach has put how many QBs in a row into the NFL and quite a few Heisman Trophy winners. He knows what he's doing. So if he's going to roll out with this kid, I think Miller Moss is his name.
Yeah.
I trust him. I get it. He might want some insurance going into the Big Ten, new conference, new teams, new schedule, and all those other teams that are going in with the Trojans are kind of in the same boat. But this is quite an audition for number 7.
I mean, it is fair to say that in a way I'm blown away just with how good he already is doing right now. Is that fair to say?
Like I said, bowl games are hard to really take a lot from, but I think some of it is is legit. That many yards, that many touchdown passes. He put that last one where we're right on the money. That was a beautiful
Hmm.
dime. So yeah, I think if you're Lincoln Riley, you want this kid on the roster next year, regardless of what happens in the transfer portal.
Absolutely. Just because, well, I mean, just for Florida State, how the Tate Rodemaker, you thought that he was going to play in the bowl game, then you just find out he went in the transfer portal. And it's just,
Yeah,
that's a
not really
shame.
not really sure why he waited as long as he did. It was no secret that they were looking at Cam Ward, DJU, and
Hmm.
we're gonna definitely be hitting the train. I mean, he's done it at every other position, using the transfer portal. So I don't think Tate had any reason to think that it wouldn't happen. Um, I wish the timing was a little better, and I have no idea where he thinks he's going. Um, it, Wherever he does land, I think it'll certainly be a step down from his situation at Florida State. And
100%.
regardless if they were going to bring in a new QB, this coaching staff has rolled with him multiple times now in his career when Travis went down and had success with him. So I wish he would have just stuck it out. Maybe that's a little selfish on my part, but you know, getting into that game, which I'm sure we'll do,
Mm-hmm.
I fail to see what, you know, how that would maybe change the result, depending on who Georgia ends up having available in that game. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'd rather have Rodemaker than Brock Glenn. That was a very green performance out of him in the ACC title game, and I don't see it changing, against Georgia.
Yeah. Real quick, let me see if I can bring Tyler back and see if he is hey Tyler, you hear us?
Yeah, I've been here for like 5, 10 minutes.
Okay, no, just I know you were a little busy with your son, so that was why I was just trying to give you a minute. So
But
glad glad to get you on, bud. And the two the high water mark for the Pac-12, and what are your thoughts about that, Tyler? Because I know I was able to have
thoughts
Chris talk
about
about it
thoughts
last
about
time.
what? Thoughts about what?
The end of the Pac-12.
What's my thoughts about the end of the Pac-12 conference?
Yeah.
Um, I think that's been covered before. I mean, it is what it is. Um, yeah, it's over. So move on. Got new season next year, and you've obviously some new teams in the Big Ten and new teams in the uh, Big 12, and ACC also added a couple. So definitely yeah, new times ahead. So just looking forward ahead.
You guys think that Florida State is going to be able to get out of the ACC within the next 2 years?
Oh, I have no idea. They definitely don't seem like they're very happy, but yeah, not sure how that all turns out.
Mm. What do you think, Chris?
I think it's definitely what they're shooting for, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
want out, and they're making the legal steps to figure out financially
How do we lose
how to
Chris?
achieve this.
There we
And I think
go.
they're going to draft back.
Hmm? If you're back,
Yeah. Okay. So I think that that's what they're shooting for, getting out in the next 2 years. They're doing, the legal side of things to figure out what the buyout would be or financial ramifications for getting out. And I think that's their goal, and I think once that they have, the facts laid out of how to, you know, get out of the ACC, that's when they can start being courted by the Big Ten, and hopefully an offer is made to make it a landing spot for
yeah, that's what I've heard, either the Big Ten or the SEC, but I really think that just the disappointment for how the playoff went and just how the ACC kind of, it felt like they kind of didn't do anything, which you would hope that your conference would try to boost you up or at least put in a word like, hey, they won our conference.
I don't think the reason why they're leaving has anything to do with that, though. It mostly has to
Okay.
do with the fact that the ACC is just not going to be bringing in the same kind of money as the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, just one year not making the playoff, they're not going to make a big decision like leaving the ACC. It's more about the long term impact of the TV deals, and the Big Ten and the SEC is just bringing in a lot more money. So, and Florida State obviously wants to be part of that. You could say that maybe the final straw. What? Yeah, I don't even know that. You don't make a decision to completely move conferences and sue the conference just based upon not making the playoffs. That just happened to be what you know an unfortunate situation where Jordan Travis was hurt, and the committee didn't think that they were one of the four best teams, which I agree with. Um, yeah, they're not leaving the conference because of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just see how it goes, but I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. So I'm looking at the slate of the games for this week, and do you guys want to go through every game that we have, or you want to just hit the games in the playoff?
I mean, I could talk a little bit. I don't have a ton of time, but I could talk a little bit about like the Liberty Oregon game
All right,
since I'm going to be there. I'm actually covering it, so
nice. That's right. I remember you were talking about
yeah.
that. I'm
Isn't this
definitely
kind of like
curious.
a house divided for you though?
You mean for myself
Yeah.
or between me and my wife?
Oh, she.
No, no. Yeah, she went to Liberty with me. No, I'm rooting for Liberty, but it's
Okay.
one of those that um, Oregon would have to play an extremely poor game. Because I mean, I watch every Oregon game. I'm on the sidelines for almost every Liberty game at home, and I'm just not seeing how. I've had trouble adding 2 plus 2 together and equaling 4 to Liberty winning. I mean, it'd have to be a very, very poor outing by Liberty. They'd have to have a very uninspired effort. They'd have to have a lot of turnovers. And I just haven't seen that from Oregon all year. So yeah, I'm rooting for Liberty, but I'd just be happy with a cover.
Yeah, just don't get killed out there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty massive talent discrepancy between those two teams.
I'm wondering if Bo's going to play. That's what I'm
He
still
is.
curious
Yep.
about. He is?
No, he is playing. Yep. And that's what, like, if Bo wasn't playing, especially since Ty Thompson, actually the backup transferred, they'd be playing a true freshman in Austin Novosad, and then things could be a little bit interesting. But the fact
Right.
that Bo's playing, Bucky Irving's playing, their best defensive player, Brandon Dorless, is playing, means that the seniors decided, hey, we want to come back and play in the Fiesta Bowl and finish the season off. Despite the disappointment of losing the Pac-12 championship and not making the playoffs, we want to finish it off and win this. Just shows that I believe Oregon's going to show up, and like I mean, just to break it down, like at the line of scrimmage, Oregon's very good at the line of scrimmage. Liberty's not. Their defensive line is pretty average, to be honest with you, even for Conference USA. They did not get a bunch of pressure even in conference. They actually, I think, were like fifth, and there's only 9 teams in Conference USA at sacks and quarterback hurries and negative plays. Most of their defense was based around being very opportunistic in the defensive backfield. They had a pretty good defensive backfield. Kobe Singleton, the Bolden kid that actually ended up transferring to Colorado is a good player. Reese, they have some good secondary guys, but they have to get pressure on Knicks, and they haven't done it in Conference USA. So I just don't know how they're going to be able to do that against one of the better offensive lines in college football. And then probably to get pressure, they'd have to bring an extra man, which is going to leave the middle of the field open. I think Terrence Ferguson, the all Pac-12 tight end. Think Bucky Irvin, Jordan James. I just think they're going to have really hard time stopping them. Now, I do think Jimmy Call is a very, very good play caller. Caden Salter is a really dynamic player. He is going to probably be able to do some things with his feet. I think he could probably make some plays down the field. They might be able to run the ball pretty good. Like Liberty on offense is pretty good. Like they have a good offensive line. Um, Cooley and Lucas are 2 solid backs. CJ Daniels is one of the best receivers in the group of 5. 2 solid tight ends, Hanshaw and Henderson. Uh, I think they will be able to, and I still think Oregon's defense, while very much improved, they obviously showed in their 2 losses to Washington that you probably still can get him with a good quarterback play and some dynamic skill guys. Um, I just don't think they're going to be able to get him enough. I just see this being like a 38 to like 14 at halftime. Then maybe Oregon just like sits all the starters, and then it ends up rounding out to like I don't know 48 to 31, something like that, and that maybe gives them a cover. So I think it's going to land about 17 and a half. But I that's kind of what my hope is. Like I said, I'd love if Liberty could pull off this upset, finish undefeated. It's just a huge accomplishment for the program, and they're going to be good next year. Like they'll be one of the favorites for the automatic bid in the playoff because of they're returning Salter and Daniels and a lot of these good skill guys in offense. So I mean, Liberty's going to be good next year. So it'd be nice for them to show, hey, we're competitive. And by the way, Miller Moss, jeez, he's having
Just
a
did it again.
he's having a heck of a game. Yeah, so that's kind of my rundown on it of how I think things are going to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
agree with all that. I mean, without knowing the Liberty roster like you do, I certainly know the Oregon one, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If Liberty tries to spy Nix or does anything that's going to leave the middle of the field open, they're going to get eaten alive by both backs and Ferguson. I think Oregon showed this year, like if there is a talent gap between them and whoever they're playing, they just
Yeah,
bury you. Like
yeah,
they play murder ball with all the Pac-12 teams that they had this huge talent gap over, and just came up short twice when there was relative you know mismatches at the skill position that I don't think Liberty is going to have at wide receiver. Um, and then there's still so many players that are not opting out of this game for Oregon. I think Troy Franklin's really the only one of note that's not going to play in this game, and I don't think they're going to need him.
Jackson Powers Johnson, the Remington Award-winning center, he's not playing either.
He's not playing.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, you made a good point. I was looking at like when they have a significant talent advantage under Dan Lanning, I believe they are. Yeah, I think it's like 21, and the only team they lost to in his 2 years that they didn't have that was not as talented a team was that Oregon State loss, where Oregon State came back by like 21 in the fourth quarter. But other than that, their losses have been to Washington and Georgia, and every other team that they have been more talented than. Not only have they beaten in the 21 victories, I think other than like 3 games, 18 of them were by double digits, and in a lot of cases by like 20 plus points. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is definitely. Am I there?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
my headphones said I was disconnected. Um, but yeah, that's another thing. It's just like when they've been better than people, they slam them. It's actually I just wish that when they're well, obviously Georgia that was kind of an anomaly, but like we didn't get to talk. Well, that's right, we didn't get to talk about that Washington Oregon game, did we?
exactly.
No.
That's why
Oh yeah,
that's why I'm glad that
I
you're
had
both
chicken.
here.
Yeah, I had chicken pox.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah, I got really sick. So, yeah, I mean, I just think Kalen DeBoer has outcoached him all 3 games. I think Washington kind of got a little lucky the first time when Bo Nix hurt himself in the game at Austin. Like I think Oregon was going to win that one, but the last two, I just think Kalen DeBoer outcoached him, especially the second game, and the third game, like Oregon just came out flat. It was just so weird. I was actually supposed to be at that game, and I had to cancel because I had chicken pox. But but yeah, the only time that Oregon has been just outcoached, and then Jonathan Smith, you could say outcoached him too. So and a couple times Lanny's been outcoached, to be honest with you. But other than that,
Yeah.
they just put the stomping on them on teams that are just not as good. So, and obviously Oregon's going to be pretty talented next year. So I'm assuming they'll probably make playoff next year because it's 12-team playoff because they'll stomp all the bad teams, and then hopefully they can take one of the games against the little better teams.
I'm definitely curious to see how it's going to be when they join the Big Ten next year. And I
I
mean,
mean, I think it's possible. I know it sounds crazy, but I was
Mhm.
looking at the roster in comparison. It is possible they might be the preseason favorite. Is that kind of a crazy thing to say?
I say
Nah,
top three, top four, if
look,
not.
look at the perennial favorites in that conference, and all of them are probably going to be reloading. Um, Ohio
Mm,
State will have a stacked
oh,
roster, but they're going to have a new
yeah.
QB.
Well, but Michigan might be losing Harbaugh. I think there's a pretty good chance Harbaugh leaves. And
I do
JJ
too.
McCarthy might be leaving because he's projected to go in the first and second. And they
Hmm.
lose pretty much their entire offensive line. So Michigan might not be as good. Ohio State will obviously have great talent like they always do, but who's going to be their quarterback?
Yeah,
And then Penn State still has an offensive issue, and they're losing some of those really talented defensive players, including and their All-American tackle. And then your Huskies, man, they're losing some pretty good players.
yeah.
Now DeBoer is a heck of a coach, but that's going to be hard to replace. And then who else is there?
Um,
That's probably the spot. Well, I mean,
Wisconsin, you could kind of
uh,
say them.
yeah, can't yet. And then USC can't after this year. You just, obviously if Miller Moss plays like this, they could be a lot better next year. But yeah, I'd say the five that I mentioned. But the thing is Oregon brings in Dylan Gabriel,
yeah.
and
True.
that's better than who anyone. I mean, Will Rogers is not bad, but who is Washington recruited at skill positions to replace Nduze, Polk, and well, McMillan might come back. But
Yeah.
who have they recruited anyone that can even compare to those guys?
No, and I think that the way the transfer portal is, such a commodity that they'll definitely dip into that. I
Yeah.
think they'll have Dylan Johnson back at running back, which kind of fits the mold of what you'd think a Big Ten running back should be. So, but they lose a ton. There's no question about it. As good as a coach as DeBoer is, like when you're going to have to turn over the majority of the roster, there's going to be some growing pains.
But the good thing about like the new 12 team playoff, if you finish in the top four of the Big Ten, you're probably in the playoff.
Probably, yeah.
Like SEC and Big Ten will probably take up about 8 of those spots, maybe 9. I mean,
Yeah.
you got the group of 5. The Big 12, they'll rarely get any more than one. And then the ACC, maybe if you have a really good Miami, Clemson, whatever combination. But I could totally see 9 spots going to the SEC and Big Ten. So being a top 4 team in the Big Ten probably will get you in the playoffs
Right.
more often than not. But yeah, I just think that Oregon, because of Dylan Johnson, sorry, Dylan Johnson. I think Dylan
Dylan
Johnson's
Gabriel.
coming to Oregon. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he's gonna. I mean, don't know how he's not going to be pretty successful. I mean, he's been good everywhere he's gone, and he walks into a pretty good situation. So I think he has a pretty
Yeah.
high floor. I don't know how high his ceiling is, but he was good this year. Well, all was the All Big 12. Um, but he decided to leave because I think they have a pretty good kid in that Arnold kid. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good deal. But yeah, Landon still has to win those close games against the better teams before I can say he's, ready to win a natty. But
I mean, that's definitely fair. It's gonna be interesting to see that. And I believe the reason Gabriel hit the portal this time is because he's got his grad year, so that way he'd be able to go without any repercussions anymore. So that's why I think he left Oklahoma. That and I mean, Since I got both of you on here, what did you think about National Signing Day last week?
Kind of the usual suspects, to be honest. You know, Georgia flipped some players. Ohio State held on to their class, especially that wide receiver, and you still got to have that high school recruiting pipeline be the lifeblood of your program, even with the transfer portal. So yeah, I think it was kind of like the status quo. The transfer portal is what the great equalizer is nowadays, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously, a good day for Alabama and Georgia. Oregon just is impressive. You know, they're able to actually, as of now, eke out a little better class than Ohio State, even though it's like almost the same. I think it's like 4 and 5, but obviously a good first class for them in the Big Ten. Um, who didn't do well? USC. So, yeah, USC. It wasn't just this year. It was the massive exodus of the portal of some former 5 stars, Corey
Hmm.
Foreman, Damani Jackson, Malachi Nelson, who was the heir apparent to Caleb Williams. He transferred out. And
Hmm.
then USC barely landed a top 20 class, which for USC is really poor. So it's kind of surprising how marginal Riley has recruited, and then obviously that mass exodus. Their roster is going to, at least on paper, um, not look as good next year. And USC over the last 15 years has underperformed their talent. So I would find it kind of shocking if that overperformed their talent. Um, so they were one that was disappointing. Um, Michigan's another team that I just wonder if Harbaugh leaves, if they really take a step back, because they're not quite recruiting at that top level. I think they have about a 17th rated class right now.
Hmm.
So USC and Michigan are two that I just wonder moving. Well, USC moving to the new Big Ten, Michigan being part of the new Big Ten. Are they going to be able to compete with um, continue to compete with Ohio State? Oregon's recruiting really well. The NLI for Oregon because of Nike is a literal thing. And if Lanning can win these close games, then like how will that be part of the power dynamic? And the SEC just continues to, as a conference, recruit pretty whole. Ole Miss actually did really good in the portal. Um, he landed Walter Nolan, the number one player. He landed Prince Amulia, forgot how to say his last name, a really good defensive edge guy from Florida. I actually think Ole Miss could make the playoff next year. If I had to predict,
I
yeah,
think they will.
yeah, if I had to predict the SEC right now, I'd probably say you got Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and then if you're looking for like one or two more spots, it's probably Ole Miss, and LSU is a team that obviously has the talent, but wouldn't be surprised if Ole Miss is the fourth team. And like I said, if you finish in the top four, you're going to make the college football playoffs. So that's a team to watch out for. And Miami continues to recruit really well. Top 5 class. Mario Cristobal is a heck of a recruiter. Now, I said this on Twitter and some people laughed, but I said that guy could recruit a nun to a harlot house, but he can't recruit a grown man to knee. And the thing is, he's just such a poor in-game coach. Is he ever going to get this good talent? He's going to have a top 10 roster next year. I counted it. He's going to have like 6 5 stars, 17 top 100 players. About 60% of his roster is going to be blue chip players. But is that going to end up in an ACC title, or is it just going to end up in another 9-3, 8-4 season with losses to teams like Wake Forest and Georgia Tech?
Right. Yeah,
But he's recruiting
That's true.
good. Can't argue the
yeah,
recruiting.
yeah, he
Well,
always has been. That was kind of a knock on him at Oregon too, is some questionable in-game decisions. But yeah, the man can recruit. He just needs to be surrounded by some, you know, steady assistants that can reel him in on game day.
That's another thing that I've always wondered about him at Oregon. And it also has been the case at Miami. His assistants are a revolving door.
Right.
Like they go in, they quit, they get. Is he really hard to work for? Is he just like this bulldozer that like overworks him in recruiting? I just I have never been able to get my like finger on Mario Cristobal as a head coach because in his was it 4 years at Oregon, 2 years at Miami. He was also coach for 7 years at Florida International. He's always brought in really good players. He's even brought in some really good coaches, but the results have been, I think he's lifetime barely more than a 500 coach. Now, Florida International skews those numbers a little bit, but so far he's 14 and 14 at, no, hold on. Sorry. He's 5 and 7, 7, 5. So he's 12 and 12 at Miami. So I don't know. That's an interesting. In 3 years, I'll be interested to see how the Mario Cristobal experiment has done at Miami. Is it just going to be a lot of really talented players that finish 7 and 5, or does he finally get them over the hump? They win like an ACC title, they make the playoff. Who knows? Makes some noise in the playoffs. I don't know. Yeah, he's curious. He's a curious study. But yeah, back to National Signing Day. I thought it was a yeah, kind of like you said, kind of the usual suspects. But definitely you saw the Big Ten, like, in the past, it was like SEC just totally dominated National Signing Day. It was like such embarrassment to everyone else. But then this year, with the additions of like, USC, Washington, Oregon, and then even like Nebraska had a really good day. They flipped a 5-star. Wisconsin landed a top 25 class. Michigan, Penn State, had that top 20 level classes. You saw where the Big Ten definitely separated itself from everyone else, where there's really is going to be two conferences. So
yeah, Rayola switching to Nebraska. I mean, it's crazy how it played out, and when finally there at the very end when he's got to make a decision, then he switches, keeps it in family. But Georgia will be fine. It just I guess it's weird to see this mass exodus of some of the bigger programs that have this 5 stars stacked on top of 5 stars. That's not going to be the case anymore. These guys want to play, and you saw it at Ohio State and Georgia. Like, so many 5-star and 4-star kids are out, and that I guess is going to make these coaching staffs get creative on their depth, because now when a guy gets hurt, you're not just plug and play with another best kid in the nation at his position. Now you got to actually probably find a way to hold on to some of these guys, or you also use the transfer portal to your advantage.
Well, Sunday wasn't as good as Coach Brian Dion in Colorado, because he was able to basically get a whole new offensive line. And I think that for his signing day, if I looked on ESPN, like 300 on there, I want to say he was like in the 20s at least for like his signing day, because he didn't really get a whole lot of 5 stars, but it seemed like he made a lot more moves in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
yeah, in the actual recruiting rankings, I don't even think he was top 50 because, like, for the recruits, like, this is just high school recruiting, because he signed like 5 guys. He did sign 5-star Jordan Seaton, but his overall ranking, they actually finished, I think it was 21st, which was actually first in the Big 12. By the way, look at the Big 12. They're the rosters in the Big 12 are going to be significantly less talented.
Yeah.
But I think, but once again, I don't know. A roster full of transfer portal guys, I have yet to see that be successful. I think the most successful coach to have a roster that had a significant amount of transfer portal guys is actually Mike Norvell's team this year for Florida State.
Right.
I think, and actually, you could say to a
Mhm.
certain extent, Kalen DeBoer, but even a lot of those guys were developed high school guys at Washington. But I still think you need to get about 2/3 of your class from the recruiting rankings and you develop them. And then you're just very good at targeting the right guys in the portal. I don't know about Dion's like whole roster being transfer portal guys. And let's be honest, he got a bunch of hype, tons of TV, media, like just went nuts. But he was 4-8. They won one lousy game in the Pac-12. They got their doors blown out by Oregon, Washington State. I mean, it was not a very good team. So if he's gonna just keep on doing the same thing and bringing in new portal guys, and somehow these guys are gonna, I mean, I guess he's in an easier conference now. I don't know. Wouldn't be shocked to see Colorado 6-6 next year, and some of this like hype for Dion kind of starts to really die down. I'm not trying to be like super negative. I just don't know about the like
No,
these huge portal classes and like
no,
tiny recruiting classes. I just don't. It hasn't been that successful yet. So
no, you're being fair. And I mean, watching the game, USC just got a game clinching turnovers where they're gonna run out the clock.
Yep.
So
This is a
you
this is a big win for them. Yeah, I know
they
that
need
we're
it.
in the same breath saying some of these bowl games don't matter, but how many times have we seen USC have a disappointing year, go to a bowl and just roll over and lose to like Iowa in a bowl
yeah,
game? So this is big
They
for them,
lost to Tulane
but
last year.
yeah, and that was with Caleb. So I think
Yep.
this not only is a different result than what we're used to seeing out of them, but they also found something in this new quarterback. So good for
Yep.
them. And this is their last time we're in, same as UCLA last weekend. This is the last time you're going to see USC with that Pac-12 on the jersey. So ended on a high
That
note, I
is
guess.
true. Now I wish I
I
hadn't picked
I
Louisville in this game, but it's okay.
I do really wonder about USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. I just don't see those rosters be. I just don't see it being unless there's. Yeah, I don't see them having a great first couple of years. So it's just could be wrong. Um, I actually think Oregon and Washington, even though Washington's losing a lot of people, and I don't think Washington's recruiting at a really high level, but I think Kalen DeBoer is such a good coach, and I think his teams will always be physical. Um, that I can see those teams translating to the Big Ten. I mean, do you see the same thing? Do you see
Yeah,
UCLA and USC in the Big Ten being successful the first couple of years?
no, I think it'll be a massive culture shock in the way that, especially Lincoln Riley's built this team, going to some of these colder weather venues with
Yeah.
teams that just want to bludgeon you to death. That's going to be it could be quite a wake up call. But man, like I said, at least for this disaster of a season for them, it certainly ended on a high note tonight.
I mean, and they needed that because the only thing that I would have wanted to see Caleb play just to see him one last time, but since he's projected like the number one pick, I can understand why he wouldn't play. So
Right.
and now it gave Moss his time to shine, which hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That and Tyler, one thing I did want to make sure that we talked about, when you, me, and Bob talked about the coaches, your crystal ball was Mike Elko, and you were correct for A&M.
He was saying Dan Lanning.
That's what Bob said. Yes, he's not. He's probably not going to join us tonight. But yeah, that was I got a laugh out of that, and so I thought about that once Elko did sign with Texas
He
A&M.
did. Oh, good
But
grab.
exactly. I know both you guys probably have to run in a minute, so I did want to make sure that let's hit the playoffs real quick one more time because we have Alabama and Michigan, and we have Washington and Texas. For me, like I told Chris, I'm picking Alabama over Michigan and Washington over Texas. And then I've got Washington winning the whole thing.
No lies detected.
I mean, I think Saban's gonna be the difference in the first game. It's just the second game. I want to see how DeVore is able to go against Saban and just how it ends up. Because I feel like a lot of times when Alabama plays, they have a lot more weapons than who they play against. I feel like it's going to be a really good matchup.
That'd be crazy to see Alabama's secondary against Washington's passing attack.
And I could be wrong about that. If so, I'm okay with that. But I just know last year I got in trouble for missing the ball drop because they were doing Ohio State had the kick that they missed right at midnight. And so I had to explain to my daughter that we had to go to a different channel and rewind it so we could watch the ball drop, which I'm
Yeah, this
hoping
year,
never to have to go through that experience again.
I think it probably happened to quite a few people, and they learned their lesson, and now it's on January 1st. But it'll still
Yeah,
probably
because
be
I'm
ending around midnight.
true, but it'll be instead of being on December 31st, it's kind of like for the NFL, the Heidi game for the Raiders,
Yeah.
which a long time ago. But Tyler, who are you picking?
I think this year more than any year in recent memory, um, I think it's kind of there's a lot more parity in this 14 playoff. Like last year, I thought Georgia was just a lot better than everyone. Obviously, Ohio State ended up giving them a good semifinal game, but I really did think Georgia. And the year before, I definitely thought Georgia with Alabama had upset them, and I thought Alabama had a chance, but I really thought those two were the best teams. And then the year before, I thought Alabama was by far the best team. They easily won it. It's just been, for the most part, it's been kind of predictable. I think the last time was that year that it was. Actually, I thought LSU and Ohio State were going to play, and I thought that was going to be a great game. And then Ohio State ended up losing to Clemson, and that great LSU team blew Clemson off the field. But this year, I can't say that you can like undeniably say one team is better than any. They're all four pretty close. Like I don't think you're wrong to say Washington or is going to win it all, or Texas is going to win it all, or Alabama's going to win it all, or Michigan's going to win it all. I think the Michigan Alabama matchup is interesting in that I do believe this is I don't know if this is actually the best matchup for Alabama. This is a very senior laden team, very experienced team that loves to run the ball, and you can run the ball in this Alabama team. This Alabama team is a very, very good secondary. But Michigan, it doesn't throw the ball a ton. They're not that dynamic outside, but they can run. And can they keep them honest enough by throwing the ball that they can keep the run game going? Then on defense, Michigan is pretty good on all levels, but they really good at stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. And if they can stop the run and then make Milrow uncomfortable, will he be able to make the plays necessary? Now he has pretty good deep ball, but some of those intermediate throws he still struggles with. And Michigan, which is just pretty good on all levels of defense, could really give him some issues. I think it's a pretty good matchup for Michigan. I'm actually going to take Michigan. I just think the more senior laden team and a pretty good matchup. I might come to regret that, but I'm going to take Michigan. Texas versus Washington. They played last year in the Alamo Bowl. I think Texas is an extremely hot team right now, playing very good coming into this game. There are tons of dynamic players on at the receiver position, and then you got a great defensive line. I think that's going to give Washington some trouble, and they might be able to get some pressure on Penix, and it causes some real issues. But this whole year, Washington has figured out how to win, and sometimes it's looked ugly and terrible. But then sometimes, they've just beaten some really good teams like Oregon twice. And I just think somehow they figure out how to win that game. And I think it's not even the best matchup, but it doesn't really matter. They figured out how to win. I don't know if Oregon seemed like the best matchup. They figured it out to win, and I think actually Oregon and Texas are kind of similar in their talent makeup. And then I guess right now, I mean, it just seems like Washington has figured out a way to win. Could they figure out a way to win the national title? Or is this like the last hurrah tour for Jim Harbaugh with a senior laden team, experienced quarterback, and they're able to pull out the natty? I don't really know where I'm going to go with that one. Let me think on it. But I think it's Michigan versus Washington for the national title.
Sounds good to me. I think that's active. I told Alan that we had to go back to the preseason show we did, and I know I had 3 of these. Well, Florida State didn't make it, but can't fault me there. But I had
Yep.
Michigan versus Washington for the title, so I'm
You
with you
did?
on that. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I said we'd lose to Michigan.
And who are you picking now to win it? Washington?
Yeah, I think that the thing about Michigan that scares me in their matchup against Alabama, besides all the obvious of Saban and the team just being, built for this and they've been there a million times, the Big Ten, I feel like we don't know how good that conference really was this year. There's just a lot of horrific offenses, and then they only had to beat, really, it was like a 1-game season. I don't even know if I'd put Penn State anywhere near the tier of Michigan and Ohio State. So it really just came down to Michigan versus Ohio State, same as it was last year. And, you know, uh, that just kind of scares me. Is Michigan really going to be up to the task of playing a team that is unlike anything they faced all year? Like even in Ohio State, I feel like Alabama has, such a better defense, um, a better quarterback for sure. Kyle McCord is nowhere near
Yep.
Jalen Milroe. And but the thing is, they can't do what Georgia did. Do not try to spy Milroe. You got to bring the house on him or bring pressure, or at least make him uncomfortable. And when you start giving him time to go through his reads and decide whether to take off or not, that's when he's going to kill you. So I think Michigan is, like you said, though, that this is not the matchup that Alabama would have preferred in the first game. I think that, they obviously, I mean, they probably want to play Washington. When you look at how those two teams
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
built,
Mm-hmm.
that the gaps are noticeable in how they would win that game.
Yeah, I don't like Alabama versus Washington for Washington.
Yeah,
I don't
I
love
think
that game.
the last
And
time we
then
played them, we don't have the defense that we brought to the game last time.
yeah. If I was going to hypothetically run, I could do that. Like, I don't like Alabama versus Washington. I would pick Alabama. Alabama versus Texas. The thing is it's tough to beat teams twice, but Washington just did it to Oregon. But and I kind of the thing is Texas is really good on the defensive line, so that gave
Right.
Milroe all kinds of problems. So that's kind of a tough matchup for Alabama. I maybe would take Texas twice. If it was Texas versus Michigan, it just seems like Michigan with that senior late, and that's what I'm wondering. It's just like they seem to be a team that overcame so much adversity that it'd just be so fitting to win the national title, making the the college football playoff for the third year in a row. A lot of these guys have been here. This is their third time. They might be last hurrah for them. Sorry, my throat. Jim Harbaugh, maybe his last hurrah. It just seems like, is it Michigan's time to win it? But then you look at the Washington team that just seems kind of like destinies follow them. And I think Kalen DeBoer is just such a great coach that it's almost like you'd fully enjoy defeating Harbaugh and defeating Sarkisian. If you got a chance to beat Saban, he was just like small town, like NAIA coach from South Dakota, Midwest guy like me, and he just went up the hard way, and he's just won everywhere he's gone. And he's just like, I don't like Washington because I'm an Oregon fan, but I like Galen DeBoer.
I think that's the general.
He's such a class act, and he's just such a good coach, and he's always been. And he wasn't handed cut off. He wasn't handed a silver spoon. He like literally had to go through the lowest ranking end of football and made it all the way to the Power Five, and he's been 24-2 in 2 years. So, just seems like that guy is gonna, with a first round quarterback and first round receivers, could figure out a way to pull this one off if it was Texas and Michigan. I just don't know about Alabama because Alabama just has better people.
No, I mean, the journey begins on New Year's, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, I do got to play devil's advocate with you guys real quick, only because, well, we hit on every other team. We got to hit the Cotton Bowl real quick. You picking Ohio State, or you picking Missouri?
I'm picking Ohio State. Not enough guys opted out to tilt it all the way in Mizzou's favor.
Okay. What about you, Tyler?
I didn't hear. So sorry. Did you hear me at the end there? Because my headset cut out.
Yep, it did.
Okay.
We heard you. Yep, your whole talk.
Okay, cool.
Able to hear. Yep.
Yeah, because I couldn't hear you when you started talking. I was like, "What is Alan saying?" So, what did you ask right now?
I was asking, what's your prediction for the Cotton Bowl?
Oh, that's Missouri versus. When is that game?
It is Friday at 8:00.
Friday at 8. How many guys are playing for Ohio State?
I think it's everybody, McCord and Harrison. Everyone on defense.
Oh yeah.
So
they're not sure about Marvin. They're not sure about if he's going to play or not. Although the thing that was funny was that Syracuse game, McCord was on the sideline for that, I got a pretty good laugh out of that.
So Devin Brown playing. I guess we don't know what we're going to have of him. I mean, Ohio State is better people, but Missouri's been an impressive team this year. I actually really like Eli Drinkowitz. I like that offense. I like those receivers. They're going to come out to play. They will come out and they'll come out. This is a big game for Missouri. They haven't been here for a big game like this for quite a few years. Ohio State obviously, didn't go to the playoff, always kicking the butt for like one of the elite power teams. I mean, Ohio State's better, but you just wonder sometimes if a team that really wants to be there is just gonna. If you said they had more opt-outs, then they did have the starting quarterback and their All-American wide receiver opt-outs. So those are two pretty significant opt-outs. And the offense wasn't exactly
as up to the Ohio State's par. I don't know. I'm gonna say Ohio State, but I don't love it. I don't love it, and that line's pretty close. So obviously some of the fans are having the same kind of trepidation. Yeah, I don't love it. You just don't know what teams show up in bowl games anymore. It's kind of why I'm looking forward to the playoff being expanded. It's going to
You know,
force
definitely.
at least you at least have forced 12 teams to show up for those games.
That's definitely true. I mean, it's going to be interesting no matter what. And I just was looking at our group that I'd made on here. I am now in second place because Santiago, I guess, made one pick above me, so he's now 14-9 on 13-11. So we're gonna see how that goes the rest of the tournament, but it's been pretty
I
good.
think
I mean,
it's kind of hard to predict the bowl games because of the opt outs.
it is. I mean, I've been for me, I'm just thankful I'm above 500 on that. So you know what? I will take that as a win right now. Also, Tyler, I have not forgotten about the $20 I owe you because of that wager I made earlier in the year. So
What,
I'm gonna
what
make
was
sure you get your money.
what was the wager?
It was $20 about Oregon gonna be that I said Colorado was gonna beat Oregon at Autzen, and you laughed at me, and you should have.
Oh my
Yep,
gosh!
yep. I haven't forgotten. I'm gonna get you your $20. Don't worry,
I
sir.
don't even want. Yeah.
Hey, it was my own fault. I admit it. I admit it. Uh, I own when I make mistakes, and well, at the
That
time,
was
I
when
thought that they.
everyone was buying that like Colorado Kool-Aid.
Yep,
And it was,
exactly,
I remember,
exactly. I
I remember
I drank the Kool-Aid.
there was legitimate newscasters that I actually respect saying stuff like, "I think Colorado might have a chance to win the Pac-12 and have like saying giving crazy predictions, all because they beat TCU, who ended up being 5-7."
Yep.
Man, it just goes to show sometimes the so-called experts and especially just the media, they get rolling on something.
Oh my gosh. Like it was, yeah. I mean, and then Colorado just turned out to be just pretty much a scam. And
Yep.
weren't they talking about Shadur Sanders being like a first round pick?
Yep. Yep. That, and then they were talking about, I guess, his brother, who's a safety. Wasn't he like a third or fourth round pick, something like that?
Well, he actually does have to go to the draft. Shadur's coming back. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember it was on hyper like
Hmm.
everywhere. Or Big Noon was there. College Game Day was there. The Colorado State Colorado game had like the highest viewership for a game at that time in like a decade. And then they go into Oregon, and I think that was like one of the most watched games this year, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah, well,
and they act like Lanning's speech was that amazing. It's like, where you play for, we're all about substance. They play for clicks, we play for wins. But the reality of it is, Colorado wasn't very good.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, that was why.
Yeah. And what are the other? Did we predict any of the other New Year's Six? What are the other ones again? Ole Miss versus
Let's
State.
let me go
yes, that's
back.
in the Peach Bowl.
Once again, it's all about who is playing. Like if you have too many guys opting out, you might be the better team during the regular season. Like Florida State doesn't have a chance against Georgia. I mean, with the amount of guys they have opting out, they're going to lose by like 40 points. I don't even want to watch that game. And then I think Penn State has quite a few guys, so that probably will put them in a tough situation against Ole Miss.
Hmm.
So it really does matter if you have a bunch of your best players not playing. I mean, that's tough to win that bowl game.
True, and then you have for the Reliant Quest Bowl on New Year's as well. You have LSU going against Wisconsin with a 10.5 point spread. You have the Citrus Bowl with Tennessee and Iowa.
Yeah,
Tennessee's the favorite of a 7.5 point spread.
but see, I'm not going to take Tennessee in that game because Joe Milton's not playing. Not that he's amazing, and Nico Lamavola was a top end quarterback, but a true freshman going up against the top five defense. I don't like that.
That's against
One reason,
Iowa.
yeah,
Yeah,
but the thing is, Iowa,
Right.
their offense can't score to save their life.
Eh,
Yeah, but that
they
defense.
they could they could score 14. I just to walk in and play like a great defense with a excellent schematics coach like the defensive coordinator. I mean, that's a tough position for a true freshman to walk into. Eh, I would not have them be 7 point favorites.
Fair enough. I mean, that's why, like, basically we have starting tomorrow, we have Boston College going against SMU in the Fenway Bowl. You have Miami going against Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl. You got Kansas State going against the Wolfpack in the Pop Tarts Bowl. In the Alma Bowl, you'll have Oklahoma going against Arizona.
That's
The
a
Gator
good
Bowl,
game.
That's a
yep.
good game. Now you don't have
Hmm.
Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma, but Jackson Arnold is pretty good.
Yeah,
And Arizona might be the favorite going into the new Big
they
12.
are. Yep. And then
It should be.
Them or Utah with
yeah.
Cam Wright to come back.
Right.
All right, then on Friday you have the Gator Bowl with Kentucky and Clemson, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, Notre Dame going against Oregon State, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl with Iowa State and Memphis.
See
Then you
that
got the Cotton Bowl we just talked about, but yeah, go ahead.
so like that Oregon State, which had a good year, they're a good team, but DJ, I can never say his last name.
Hmm.
Aiden Childs is gone. The backup, the head coach is gone. I mean, that they're going to be rough walking into the Notre Dame game. Now, Sam Hartman's not playing for Notre Dame, but still, I think Notre Dame's going to have. I just don't see how Oregon State can win that game with all the people that left.
Right.
It's really unfortunate because some of these teams had really good seasons and they have guys that it's their senior year. You know, they had a good season and then their coach leaves, their starting quarterback leaves, the backup leaves, and like they're stuck with this like shell of a team for their last game. That does kind of suck. It
Yeah, it
sucks
does.
that sucks for those guys. Like the Florida State kid, like the players in the team that are going to
Hmm.
play with that team against Georgia um on New Year's Eve or 2 days for the day before New Year's Eve. That they're just not playing with the same team that win
Yeah,
14.
that's
So
true. That and think about the Music City Bowl. You got Maryland going against Auburn.
that's just
I
kind
mean,
of an
'cause-
unforgettable game.
well, I mean, Talia's not even going to play in that game.
Oh, he's not.
I thought he already declared for the either. I think he declared for the draft already.
Oh, he did. Okay.
I thought he did like a week or thought he did a while ago.
I mean, Auburn's not that good though. Who knows how the game turns out? But yeah, I think of those games you mentioned, the one, um, yeah, I mean, I think the one that I'm interested in is Ole Miss versus Penn State. Obviously, it's a New Year's Six game, and if enough players play for Penn State, I think that'll be a really good game. I'm just
Yeah,
worried that just worried about too many guys sitting out.
it's gonna be on the 30th is the Barton Toledo.
I can't hear you.
All right, Sports Arizona Bowl. That's Wyoming and Toledo.
Oh wow, I'm just so excited for that game.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how I can contain my excitement myself, so
My goodness. I've been just waiting for that
but
game like the whole bowl season.
did you guys watch the Texas State game last night by any chance? Going against Rice?
Well, the head coach for Texas State, he was the quarterback for my uncle in high school, GJ Kenny. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I saw him and I was like, oh, there's GJ, and that's about all. How did the game end up?
Texas State blew the doors off of Rice.
Oh, good, good.
It was
That's
45 to 21. I mean, the second half,
that's his first
I
year
think
there,
that,
so good for him.
well, they had two interceptions. One player for Texas State had two interceptions returned for touchdowns. I think they had 5 or 6 interceptions total against Rice. It was a beating.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's his first year at Texas State, and that means I think he finished about like 9-4.
8-5.
8-5. Okay. Well, I mean, for first year, he took over, I
Yeah,
think, a pretty crappy program. That's pretty good. And
exactly.
he's
No.
a, he's a young guy. He's only about 32, 33 years old. So if he can turn that program around, he could set himself up for a much, maybe a Texas Tech or a Baylor. You have to think Baylor's going to be looking for a coach if Aranda doesn't have a better year next year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, another time I gotta get you back on so we can do another coaching carousel. We just gotta get Bob on here as well because that was fun last time. That
well,
and
we got the NFL coming up. So,
exactly. We can probably hit that another time. Well, fellas, I know that it's bedtime basically, but I appreciate both you guys coming on and want to make sure wish you guys a happy new year and keeping track of the sports. If I can get you on for a few minutes next week before the national championship game, I'll do it, but depends on your schedules. But I do thank you for coming on today so that we could hit the games hard one last time.
yeah, I'd like to at least make it on to give a prediction because I kind of I didn't give a prediction. So,
Sure, we can definitely do
I
that.
think it'll depend pretty much on whatever the matchup is.
Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'll get in touch with you as I always do, and then just depending on your schedule, if you can, that'd be great. If not, hey, worst case, you can send me what you think the prediction will be for the score, and I can always read it on the show just in case for you. So,
Right on. I'll be coming back from New Orleans. I'll be at the game on Monday night, and
Oh, you are nice.
I already got tickets to the title game. So shows
Oh,
you
you
how
do.
confident I'm feeling. Yeah. Well, when you buy them through the school, you have that one opportunity to not only get the semifinal game, but the title game. You got to buy it all at once. Obviously, I don't get charged if we don't make it, but in order to get your tickets through the university, you got to put in for all of it at the same time.
Well, that's cool that you get to go out there.
Yeah.
That should be a heck of an experience.
Yeah. I was at the last one, and
Were you at the Pac-12 championship?
no, I was at the Apple Cup.
Okay.
I was thinking, yeah, I was at the last time we made the playoff against Alabama. So hopefully this goes a little better than that
Oh,
one.
you're at the one at in Georgia, right?
Atlanta. Yeah. Pretty much a home game for them. This is going to be a home game for Texas, pretty much. But it's in a
Yeah,
dome.
that is.
Going
Yeah, that
to be
is
loud.
Yeah, that does kind of. Yeah, why didn't you guys get the Rose Bowl?
And that's just a whole nother show in itself.
Yeah,
What I
yeah,
think of the playoff committee.
I know because, yeah, the Rose Bowl's like stuck. So yeah, Texas gets a very favorable, which if you made them go out to the Rose Bowl, it'd be a lot less favorable, correct? So yeah, but I then get, I guess if you gave the number one
seed Michigan, the sugar, next to where Alabama is. That's kind of so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yep.
Can't win for losing a lot of times, unfortunately. But like I said, fellas, I wish you a happy new year. Last thing I'm gonna say is for the fall sports teams, congrats to national champions. Women's volleyball, you had Texas. Men's water polo, you had Cal. Men's soccer, you had Clemson. Women's soccer, Florida State. Field hockey, you had North Carolina. Cross country, individually, you had men. Graham Blanks from Harvard and Oklahoma State for the team. Women for the individual, you had Parker Valley from Florida. And the team NC State had a three-peat. But look forward to being able to get you guys on again. We'll see what happens for the playoff. Hope everyone has a happy new year. This has been the top 25 rundown.